we will talk about Polaris. Polaris and the event dedicated to her. I prepared information which was recollected from Daniel's livestream to make sure I show you something specific. First of all, let's just celebrate that she is finally with us and what I want to highlight. So today you are able to get her souls and jet souls from the gifts. So that's the first important thing which I would like to focus on. So I really recommend you to get Polaris and to keep improving her. So now let me show you the main thing which I prepared, and that's the combination of the stats and abilities. So let's start from abilities. First of all, Pulsing Comet, she starts from the back line and moves towards the front, but you can control it and you can just make it work several times if it's not at destination, so if it's not still at front line. Then Ice Barrier which will survive 3 hits, but at the same time when it breaks, it explodes and deals extra damage for that. Also remember that it creates the slow effect for the enemies. After that we have Northern Light, which allows you to have better control effects. That's why Polaris is often used together with Arachne, or sometimes I saw her with Jorgen, and that helps a lot, so you can get more effect with your control heroes. And finally, when the Pulsing Comet or Glacial Fortress explodes, there's a true freeze status. So what it means? Enemy gets more magic damage, but at the same time, less physical damage. The most important thing from this one is that the enemy does not accumulate energy or other resources, which means Isaac will not gain energy as well, neither charge. So that's the idea. So Polaris actually can slow the enemy team, stun the enemy team, buff your control part of the team, and deal a nice amount of magic damage. About her stats, as you can see, so she has enough health to survive, I would say. And also she has some armor. Can't say that it's a lot, but well, for a mage, no doubt. That's okay, I guess. And also we have magic penetration, which is pretty high because she deals magic damage probably. As for glyphs, so glyphs are almost typical for mage, but also we have a glyph for armor. And about artifacts, she gets magic penetration to the entire team. So here you can see the effect which is applied when your artifacts are level 130. And this information also was from Daniel's live stream, so I just recollected it. And actually, that's the Polaris which is maxed, but obviously for now it's kind of far away from me. Still, you see her stats, the boosters from Ascension, and her tree branch is Control. So that's the main information about Polaris, which I wanted to highlight. Now, why I would say it's very important to start. Okay, so about the souls. Actually, we're able to get jet souls today. Remember that if you plan to do it casually, you can get it either from Soul Atrium if you're very lucky, because I'm not, or just trade. So trade 10 souls of casual heroes you already have in Absolute Star into 1 soul of jet. So that's the currency and that's very expensive. But today we are able to get double value. So if you send present, you receive Polaris soul stones and jet soul stones. So that's why I would like to highlight it's a great day to start doing your stuff connected to jet. Or try to wait till the last day and hopefully we get double Polaris output. So that's the second important thing which I would like to highlight about today. And finally, about my test on Arena. So if we go to guild battles, you see that I prepared 5 arena teams from my top 10 arena with real patronage because I was at 8th position and I could play against all of them. And actually the results are shown here. So the first team was based on Celeste, Nebula, and Iris. So we have triple healing here and nice synergy, but I found a way to remove it. Look at that. So the idea is pretty simple. I try to play Iris to remove the enemy without Severus healing. Aurora is here because I need to add some damage, and at the same time Celeste will help her to charge. After that, Celeste as a buff and Polaris as extra damage. So let's try to remove this team. Biscuit obviously counters Marsa. That's probably the reason why I prefer to play Dorian in most cases. And let's see the fight itself. So at first looks like everything is going according to the plan. So I used manual control of Celeste to keep my team alive. Also double buff. So double buff helps a lot, deal more damage. And that also applies to what Aurora can do. So if enemy can't deal enough damage to Aurora's soul, she moves forward and pushes the enemy out of this game actually. And Marsa can't help much because Biscuit blocks the healing, and that's why we don't allow enemy to heal too much. So even triple healing wasn't able to survive against this combination. And also, as you can see, Iris and Polaris stay near Dorian, which means they can lifesteal. Celeste can heal herself and Aurora. So that's the team which I used. And once again, the stats for fight number 1. That's it. So Marsa healed something, but nothing serious. Against the 8th position, for the 8th position, we have a hybrid team. And I actually thought that we will lose, but actually we won. So against Rufus, I play Morrigan because we need somehow to remove Rufus. I don't want anybody to resurrect him like Polaris or Jorgen, which means I need a solid removal like Morrigan. Also, Morrigan can help us to spam against Ishmael so that he tries to fight skeletons, not Asteros. So that's the stats for the second fight, and let's see how it went and why I actually won. So the second fight is here. I was able to like out damage the enemy again, but at the same time I lost enough. So look, Asteros already dead. Skeletons try to tank. Then Polaris tries to do something. And actually the finishing were Jorgen and Isaac. So this team is based on debuffs. As you can see, we block energy, we silence the opponent, and meanwhile we remove them one by one. So the main idea of this team was actually to debuff the enemy till death. And that worked, as you can see, that worked. Also, we have synergy of Isaac and Morrigan, who helped each other to break the enemy defenses. About the 5th team. So the 5th team, here I tested 2 options. First option was based on Orion, Helios, Dorian, Polaris, and Rufus, but maybe I had to play not Rufus, but Aurora instead in this setup, because this team didn't work, and its main problem was not enough damage. So when you rely too much on Orion, it can end badly in case the enemy can heal back. So usually I rely on Orion to get exactly magic penetration, but here we have Polaris. So with Polaris, you can rely on her instead, and Helios with magic penetration from Polaris easily burns enemy Yasmine. So you can swap Orion into something else, and still you are okay with the one. And at the same time, as you can see, Rufus wasn't very lucky this time. That's why he died, that's why Orion died, and I wasn't able to finish in time, resulting into 2 damage dealers which can't finish the fight. So I decided to change the idea. I started playing Iris and Corvus. Once again, we easily burn enemy Yasmine, but also remember that Corvus actually can burn Maya and Iris. So that's a huge advantage of his Altar of Souls. And Iris easily breaks the front line with Aurora, so it's not a big deal for her. At the same time, you will see that all my team stands around and they all can lifesteal, almost all actually. And look at this. So, as usual, Yasmine jumps and dies immediately. But after that I drag the soul and we start breaking the opponent one by one. So Iris is a great frontline breaker. All my team stands around Dorian and lifesteals, so I feel pretty great. And also Dorian against Maya seems reasonable. About others, so George at 4th position. That's a team which is probably typical. We have buffed Dante with Rufus, which makes it harder to remove him by mages. And I saw many people playing Dorian in this setup. So that's one of the typical teams. My solution was pretty simple. So enemy deals huge amount of physical damage into my tank. Let's get Aurora with Kane and let's make her crazy. Meanwhile, she refers to magic damage, which means Celeste can buff her. And obviously Polaris adds magic penetration, so why not use that advantage? If we just go to the Polaris image back here, so her artifact gives you up to 50,000 magic penetration, which is huge. And the fight was pretty impressive for me at least. So look at that. Aurora was my main damage dealer. Once again, I play Morrigan to counter Rufus, not to allow him to resurrect from my magic hits. Celeste, I tried to control her manual, but actually with skeletons it's much easier to survive against Dante because Dante gets stuck in those skeletons and your main characters can survive easier. So we have kind of double value from Morrigan in this particular fight and the enemy gets smashed. So that's the basic idea. And against the first position of Arena, we have several options. So the first option was Highlander's ODH Aurora, typical plus Polaris, and Chorus to partially counter enemy effects. That's the first option. And the second option was mine, so I just used a relay team based on debuffs, Isaac, Arachne, Polaris, Dorian, Aurora. And remember that actually you benefit from Polaris, your debuffs gets longer. Also I used Mara to make it even longer, and as you will see, that worked nicely. So I spammed those dodge so hard that Dante couldn't go through that, and I even didn't need Morrigan to redirect something. At the same time, our Isaac was really happy to see this combination because Jorgen, Celeste, and Aurora greatly charges him. And with Mara, he was able to silence the enemy even better than usual. So that's my option, that's Highlander's option, which is his typical team when he plays Nebula, Celeste, sometimes he adds something else. So base is ODH and Aurora plus 1 hero. So as you can see, his option also works. Some problems with Dorian, with Jorgen actually, and yes, so he managed to win even this way. Okay, so I really hope my teams can help you as well. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos and good luck to you.